Good morning, everyone. Here we are on our last full day in the Kaibab Forest. We'll be heading out tomorrow. Beautiful morning. Clear sky, not a cloud in the sky anywhere. Super light breeze and just loads of sunshine and nature. Had a good night last night. Woke up before sunrise and threw another blanket on the bed. It was 35 degrees inside the bus. So I got a little chilly. Pup was sprawled out like no one's business. He was soaking up the cool. And then this morning when we got up, about sunrise, about 8 o'clock, it was about 45 in the bus. So it was warming up, but still didn't turn the heater on, so that's good. But we're out here walking down this side trail, and it goes way back here in the woods. I don't know how far it goes, but you would need a smaller vehicle probably to get back in here and go camping. There are a lot of campsites back there this way, but overhanging trees and different things would make it a little more difficult for bigger rigs. My bus would make it, but it would probably hit a few branches, and I don't want to do that. But it goes way back here. So we're going to keep walking and then go back and get my breakfast and Pup's breakfast and get me some coffee, because I'm in need of coffee this morning. Here's one of the campsites down this road we've been walking on. It's not heavily used. I mean, you can tell that like there's no vehicle tracks, and there's no like a designated parking area, but definitely a campsite. Got some trash in it, but I've already got a couple of things in trash. I may pick that up too. And oh yeah, more bones hanging up in the trees. I've seen about 4 or 5 trees that had deer pieces hanging up in it. And as we walked across the forest to get here, once again, sorted deer pieces everywhere, but they'd been there a while. They were kind of dried up. Zen's already resting. Look at that. Didn't take much for him to get worn out, but we're gonna walk back towards the bus. But yeah, it's nice to get camping area. And one thing I have noticed, or I haven't seen, is hardly any wildlife. I mean, birds and one squirrel, a couple of lizards, and a crow. And that's it. 3 days. I've not seen any other wildlife out here. I mean, yeah, a lot of them might be nocturnal, and I not see them in the evening, but we've seen nothing else. And very, very few birds. I mean, really not a whole lot of them, but you got your bluebirds coming through, and you got your little woodpeckers, climbing down the trees, but there's just not much activity out here in the way of animal life. Maybe that's the reason there. I don't know. Maybe they're afraid for their lives, so they don't stay out of the national forest. But we're going to continue on because Pup is ready. Ready to go? Come on, keep walking. Come on. And I have noticed when I've been back in here deeper that there are more of the trees with the orange marks on them. And I remember seeing at some time a video or a TV show about the marking of the trees, and I can't remember exactly what the orange marks meant. I think it means either the Forest Service boundary or something to do with tree harvesting or tree boundaries, but there are more of them back here in this deep part of the forest. But the Pup has its own way of marking his trees, and he does that does that on his own. But we're going to walk up back towards the bus and rest up. think those are some of the sightseeing planes. That's the third one that's gone over in a row, and I think there's another one coming. Like I mentioned before, the airport is just a couple miles to the north of where we're staying here. Small airport. I think that's it. Reminds me of those TV shows back in the day. Sky King. Just thought of that. You remember those? Remember that the TV show, Sky King, where the guy was an airplane pilot in a little plane like that. I can't remember what it was all about, but yeah, just seeing those planes kind of remind me of Sky King. Here's one of those trees up close and personal. There's the markings, 2 orange stripes, and then 1 from the ground up. They're just, so if anybody knows, I'll do some research, but if anybody knows what those might be for, and this is definitely a deer hunting campsite because it's got a fire ring. But one thing I noticed is this. It's a deer hanging tree. That's where you hang your deers up there to let them kind of bleed out and dry out. But I'm sure that's what that bar is, or that 2x4 across there. But once again, there's just these scattered trees out here with the orange stripes. I'll do some research, and if you guys know an idea, let me know too. All right, I found out the reason for the orange markings on the trees. I did a little Google research. Evidently, there's no universal color standard or markings for forestry. So the Google was saying that the orange stripes depend on the kind of stripes. A single stripe like this would be the tree needs to be cut down. The horizontal stripes, like we saw, the 2 across, means the edge of a forest harvesting boundary, which means that's the boundary they don't want the loggers to go past. So they mark the trees in orange stripes that way. It makes sense because when I was walking through, the trees were kind of on the edge of an open area where they were cleared out some trees. So, okay, so we'll go with that. There's also, you might see blue. You've seen blue markings on trees. And that's, like I said, there's no universal coding. So blue can designate a trail or a walking area, or in some places it could designate a tree that's dead or dying and needs to be cut down. So it's, it depends on where you're at. So if you're a logger, I guess you got to check your areas because you could wind up cutting down a trail tree or something like that. And if you see a red marking on a tree, that is usually Forest Service boundaries. Do not cross, you're trespassing. I guess it's better than putting up signs everywhere. I don't know. So the trees would have a red stripe across them, which means don't go past. You've seen, and also I think the only universal coloring that I've seen for trees in property lines is purple. And that's for like the private landowners will post no trespassing, and it's a purple marking. You'll see them on fence posts and trees and different things, and they may have signs up too. But there's no universal markings for trees. And I think that's it on the trees. Yep, those 3. But the 2 horizontal and the 1 stripe is the property boundary of the logging area. So, and I guess this is just a sustained natural and healthy forest, cut down on the overgrowth and the dead trees and etc. But that's the color of the trees. Okay, and the other thing is, I want kind of on the funny side, to me anyway, in my previous video, I did a short at the end about cooking my dog, Zen. He's under the bus right now, sleeping. Pork chops that were questionable, and I cooked them in the bus, and they put out quite a smell. Well, let me tell you, don't do that. Don't do that. The smell is still in there. I had the windows open, and it's not as bad as it was, but it smells like a junior high boys locker room. It's just, or bad feet smell or something. It's just, I've got windows open to let air out. I've got the roof hatches open, and maybe it'll clear up, but it's just lingering in the bus. But if you have bad meat, throw it out, or bury it or something like that. Don't or don't do like I do and cook it and give it to your dog. If you do it outside, because it has an aroma to it. It's not pleasant. So, but we got our coffee after our walk this morning, so we're going to look around. I did see a couple of vehicles go by, and they were I'm watching the birds fly over my head. They were Grand Canyon Railroad trucks, um, and they were going to the west. So I guess maybe there's a railroad intersection or something down there, but they were heading that way. And one other car drove in and drove out. Well, that's it. Been pretty quiet. It is like midweek, like Thursday, I think now. I can't remember my days, but I think it's Thursday. So the weekend might be busier, especially as the season goes on and the weather warms up. And the Grand Canyon, like I said, is 10 miles to the north. And as soon as they get overflow parking and have no parking for their RVs and campers, they'll probably start hitting all the national forests and setting up and then driving in their personal vehicles. And that's one thing I really miss, right? Being in a vehicle in a big bus. I would love to have a tow vehicle behind where I can pull behind me, uh, a Jeep or something small that's not so heavy. So as I'm sitting here, I can go places like drive down that forest road we were walking down a while ago, or go down the hill to see the railroad tracks, or drive around the other service roads. Uh, it's a little tough on a bus because it's almost 40 feet long, and it gets about 5 or 6 miles to the gallon going down these dirt roads, and it doesn't take long to another airplane going over. It's a busy day at the airport today. That's about the fifth or sixth one I've seen in the last couple hours. And I think yesterday, I think I saw three all day. So I guess it depends on weather and the people. But yeah, so we're going to enjoy this nice day, and then we'll be heading out tomorrow, like I said, and we'll go from there. This is our last day walking through the Kaibab Forest. I think we're going to be heading out tomorrow. So I wanted to do a little more filming of this beautiful forest. Like I said, it's just peaceful and quiet. I'll show you something over here I noticed from a distance, and I think I know what it is, but come on, buddy. He still smells that deer leg that's back over there. I need to just bury it or throw it out or something, but he keeps wanting to go to that deer leg. What an animal. This is much quieter to walk on. It's got all these pine needles, so you don't hear anything crunching too much. I ever heard that there was maybe a horse is in here somewhere. I had a friend that came by and he said there was a horse that was visiting him in the campsite, but I haven't seen any, or cows. I'm sure there's a lot of cows, but there is a trail of some sort that looks like a animal trail. Could be cows, or it could be a horse or something, but we're gonna walk over here towards this tree. I do see another car off in the distance. They're just sitting there by themselves in the forest. Well, come on. He's just kind of not wanting to do much walking today. He wants that deer leg, but not gonna do that. As we get closer to this tree, let me show you. Look at there. Yep, that was definitely a lightning strike. Tree's been dead for a while. I think I'm not an expert on those things, but you can see this giant split all the way to the bottom and into the ground. And the poor tree evidently was hollow inside somewhere, and it just caught fire. And evidently lucky enough that it didn't catch the whole forest on fire. So, but there's just chunks of bark everywhere out here. But here's another interesting side. This is the top of the tree. You can look at it and see that where the fire was in that section, and it just broke off once it burned itself out. I mean, it may have, suffocated itself out and then broke off. Maybe that's why there wasn't a fire, but you can see that it just stops right here. That's the end of the burn area, but there's that split all the way up to the top of the tree, what's left of it. And it looks like somebody's been out cutting all the limbs off of it, probably for firewood or something at one point. But yeah, it went all the way up, but it didn't catch anything else on fire. There's that split. Go all the way to the top. But yeah, there's the back of the tree. And the fire was just in that one section, which was right, sorry for the sun, was just in that one section right there, in the middle upper section. But yeah, that caught my attention as we were strolling through earlier. Well, we're going to walk this way, and then we're going to go walk that way. So we're going to walk whatever way we want to. Come on, pup. There's a lot of rock over here. This is there are some cow remnants, so there are cows out here somewhere. But lots of rocks on top of the ground. I always like just walking through the forest or anywhere to see what's out here. This is really interesting to see some things and try to figure out maybe what happened to them or why. Kind of like that tree right there. Like, what in the heck happened to that thing? I would probably say it may have fell over or something, and then it started growing again. I don't know. It's got an oddball root and trunk on it. But I don't know. Yeah, there's more, and then they got these. These are juniper bushes here, trees. They're not really very tall. But this side has just a lot of these rocks on top of the ground, and they're not over where I'm parked at, which is right over there, but they're just right up here. So we're going to walk towards these other trees and see what we can look at here. Got to watch where you're walking because these rocks are just everywhere and I'll trip over them. Let's go investigate this down tree over here. If we can get close to it. Yep. It may have just died and fell over. A lot of them, die because of diseases and something, or a lot of them die because of lightning strikes or some natural forces. But that one's pretty much gone. It's hard to say what might have done it, but it just fell. It wasn't cut, that's for sure. That's not a cut, that's a fall. I don't see any splits in it on this side, but doesn't mean it wasn't also hit by lightning at some point. But these make great habitats for the the creatures and the critters that are out here. Bears like to go in there and dig around, look for ants and things. And then the little lizards and birds and whatever else will make their home in the deadwood. Maybe a couple snakes or two, but yeah, there's a few stumps out here. A lot of it's cleaned up, so they do leave some back behind, I guess, for natural decomposing habitat for the animals. This one is gone with just a stump, but looked like it was fired. It's burned as it is. It wasn't cut, so it was another fall. And that big tree right back there is, I would say, probably doesn't have too much longer before it goes down. It is dead. I'm gonna look at it because it's got a spiral break into it. So let's go look at that one. Come on, pup, this way. Yeah, that one might have been hit by lightning also, but it's got to get closer over these rocks. It's got that spiral crack up most of it. Look over here on this side. Goes by, yeah, it spirals all the way up the tree. So that was probably a lightning strike also. And then another dead one on the ground. And some more back that way. That's just today's lesson on trees. I'm not a tree or an arborist, but it's just my opinion. Look, there's that spiral. It goes all the way up the tree, like a vortex. Maybe it's not good for me to stand underneath this thing while it's going on. There's a lot of these plants too. I think these are called lamb's ears or something. They're really soft and fuzzy. They got little flowers that pop up on them, like right there. But they're something you don't see in the desert, the low desert. Another decomposing tree. And again, that one was burned, so that might have been another lightning strike. But yeah, that tree there is definitely had it. And there's a couple trees right there that are dead, so it could be one of them. That there first small tree at the top knocked out of it. Could have been, wind, or could have been fire or lightning. But all right, we're gonna work our way back towards the bus, I think. The pup's kind of still walking around. But yeah, that's going to be it on the tree, or on the trees. I don't like that. I'm not an arborist, but it's just my opinion and my observations as I see them out here, firsthand, and being right up against them. But their beauty in nature. They're beautiful when they're standing, and there's something about them when they're laying down too. You just got that awe either way. The mighty kings of the forest, and one zap of lightning and they're gone, kind of like us. We're kind of king of our domain, but it takes one thing and we're gone, just that quick. Yeah, lots of area. This doesn't have many rocks in it, but that other side right over a couple hundred feet over there is just full of rocks. We're walking back to the bus. Yep. Like I said, we'll be heading out and heading west pretty soon. We're just going to enjoy this last night in here and enjoy the peace and quiet. Let's go. We're on our walk again. We do a lot of walking out here in the forest because there's not much else to do. Sit at camp, walk around. But there's three things I want to finish up with before we end this video. Is one about these ponderosa pines. It says, and I have noticed it too, that if you scratch the bark and you smell them, they smell like vanilla. So let me find a stick here. Scratch the bark. Find us a spot on the tree, and we'll make a little mark. That's good. And take your, and it does. It smells like vanilla. Not real strong, but it's got a vanilla smell to it in the bark. But that's one thing. And another thing is, if you're out here in the forest, not, depending on where you're at, and if you get lost, the best thing to do is what they call hug a tree. Find a tree and stay there, because you'll have better chances of being found by rescuers if you're stopped in one place and not wandering all over the forest, because you're going one way and they're going another, and they may not catch up with you. But if you find a tree and hug it or stay there and put up some sort of signal device or whatever, they can find you easier than wandering out the opposite way. And the third one is, I now know where the big box companies get their lumber at. Yep. Right there. Yep, that looks like it. Nice and not straight. All right, well, there's going to leave it here, and we'll catch you guys on down the road. We're going to be heading out. Next video will be us back on the highway. Have a good one, and see you then.